Good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday. My next question is from George Holstein. George, Mr. Holstein, if I mispronounce your last name, I apologize. His question is, why do you need more money? I will have to sell my house if you raise taxes. I hear that and I take it seriously. I think when I develop, here's how this works. So the board expects each year that I'm going to work with people inside of the school district and come to the board and say, well, let me back it up. The board creates this mission and vision for the district and what we want to do for kids, and they want to see improvement. Stuff we mentioned before up the thread here with Mr. Fry, and they want to see improvement. So I go and work with the administrators to say, well, what do we need in order to accomplish this thing that the school board, who's the elected representatives of the town of Springfield to run the schools, to do what the school board wants to accomplish? What do we need in order to do that? And I know it feels like, well, what we bring forward sometimes is extravagant. I'll tell you, on the principal side, they are sick of me saying, like, no, that's too expensive. No, that's too expensive. No, people are not going to swallow the amount of money we're going to need to raise in order to do that. But we work, usually it's like late August. We're starting to have the conversation about what do we need to do to bring a proposal to the board. We have all kinds of conversation in September. It includes teachers, it includes other folks. And then we whittle it down. And then in November, I typically present to the board, here's what we think could work. Now, the board has to balance what it costs and what we're ultimately gonna achieve. But I never want to put forward a budget that people feel like is an insult and is not responsive to the strain that people are in terms of taxation. Now, I have to look at the latest tax department report, and I can give you the figures. But Springfield does, when you combine what we pay in town taxes and what we pay in, if you are someone who's in the category that pays all the town taxes and all the school taxes, you have a really high tax burden compared to a lot of places in the state of Vermont. Now, we have a whole bunch of people on the school side who don't actually pay the rate that you see listed. A lot, 2/3 of our community, if you're a homeowner, 2/3 of the homeowners in our community don't pay that rate. They pay a reduced rate because we're in certain, we qualify in certain ways based on what people make each year. And Vermont is reasonably generous in trying to find ways to help lessen the pain on taxpayers when it comes to schools. Anyways, so when we go to the board in November, I try really hard to be reasonable about, like, we got to progress, we got to get better. Here's what it would look like, and very often telling principals, like, if you're telling me you need this, then I need you to cut the equivalent amount. And then we go to the school board with our proposal, and then we have a conversation November all the way through the end of January with the board, with the community, about what is the proposal going to be, and then ultimately that proposal goes on to voters at town meeting day in March. In terms of why do I need more money, part of it is really, this time around, there's two things the main thing that costs us in the school district is personnel, people. We have over 300 employees, and so the big cost drivers for us, there's, when people get a little bit of a salary increase, that can have a big impact when it's spread across 300 people. So if you give people a 1-2% raise, that has an impact. And some of our contracts are set up that way, where each year, if things go the way they normally go, people might get a 2% raise as part of their contract. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Most of the time, either 2 or a little bit more sometimes, which is, I don't want to be dishonest about it. And then, so that's happening. But what happened? The other thing that happened for us, we just got hit with $500,000 that we didn't anticipate, because the state stepped in last year and said, we're going to negotiate all the health benefits for everybody, because there was a lot of angst as we were moving from the old system of health insurance stuff into the under the new rules under Obamacare, the expectation was that staff we're going to restructure our plans to have staff be more have to pay more on the front end of their health insurance. That got really sticky, and then it went to so the state decided to step in and we're going to negotiate the health insurance benefits for everybody. Well, they did, but what they ended up negotiating was more expensive than what we had negotiated in our district, but we're stuck with it. So we got effectively a $500,000 bill we got to pay. That isn't our fault, but we got to do what we got to do. So that's what's going on with that one. So it's really two things. It's a little bit. There are some anticipated because we're in the middle of negotiating contracts with almost everybody right now. We haven't finalized those. So some anticipated potential increases and the and this health insurance thing are the two biggest whacks. Because we took out the other stuff that we were looking at to do some spending with. All right, long answer, but I would say this: the other thing is look closely at your tax bills because there's a good chance that what I'm talking about sometimes in terms of what it could potentially cost. When I'm talking about what we anticipate the increase would be, I'm almost always talking to the 1/3, not the whole community. Take anyone who doesn't own a home, they're out. Just take the people who own a home. 1/3 of those people I'm talking to when I'm talking about what the increase is. For the other 2/3, usually it's not as much as what we're talking about. And we're anticipating, but this is with a whole bunch of variables going on at the state level, we're anticipating that it would be, an increase in 2.2 cents on every $100 worth of residential property value. But there are some big things that could change at the state level that could radically shift that. But we're basing it on the best information we have so far. All right, George, I apologize. I feel like that was a rambling thing, but at least it gives you some information to go on. I'm always happy to do some follow-ups, whether that's calling my office and talking to me or in any other way. Thanks.